It's looking real good. Now we got a new DA in LA, so they're gonna. I got court on the 14th, fool, right there in Compton Thursday. So they're gonna drop a gang of like my gun enhancement, my gang enhancement. My gang enhancement's 10 years, fool, for being a gang member, and then the gun and the commission of crime.
Gascon or wherever.
I don't get that name on my face. That's a champ right there.
We'll talk about those gun enhancements and other enhancements coming up in a little bit with Tanya Owen, whose husband, a sheriff, LA County Sheriff, was murdered in the line of duty, and Gascon took away all those enhancements. So we'll talk a little more about that coming up in a little bit. Alex Villanueva is the sheriff of Los Angeles County with us now. Sheriff, how are you, sir?
Oh, not too bad. Yourself, Mike?
I'm doing great. That's a brutal clip right there. Help us understand what it really looks like out there, right? Only some things make headlines. Child abuse doesn't make the headlines. Domestic abuse doesn't make the headlines. Drug crimes don't make the headlines. Like, very few immigration-related things really make the headlines. So I don't think people have a full understanding of the magnitude of what you see every day. Can you help us understand?
Well, what we're seeing is there's a very 19 to 21, 94% increase in homicides. That is off the chart historical levels of increases in homicides. And who are the ones that paid the price? Our Black and Latino communities predominantly. However, the Board of Supervisors, they're just totally silent on the issue. Radio silence. They can't discuss it even. And that's one of the problems. Then you have the smash and grab robberies. Now the follow home robberies. Then you have the homeless encampments encroaching on everyday life throughout the county. So you have major challenges that we're facing, and then the board defunding us at the very same time. You can't make this stuff up.
What do you say to, because I've heard some progressives say, oh, it's actually not that bad. You guys are exaggerating with the numbers and you're not taking into account this. And sure, some crimes are a little bit up, but some crimes are down. What do you say to that?
The only crime that we saw down during the pandemic was burglary, because everyone is at home. It's kind of hard to burglarize a home with people in it. That's the stuff that crime went down. And domestic violence went down because too many witnesses. But now that we're going back to normal patterns of society's reopening, we're seeing all the traditional crime patterns. Now we have burglaries are up, robberies are up, and we have these sensational where they're targeting, means of wealth or wealthy individuals, the follow home robberies, watches, luxury vehicles, all these things, home invasions now. And these things are critical. But of course, the people that are saying, oh, it's not that bad, they live in very secure communities where this is not a big problem. Of course, they want other people to suffer the experiments that they're trying to do.
You've seen it a lot. You've been there. You've been in this game for a long time. Help us understand the progressives' mindset about crime. We talked in the first segment about how a lot of progressives view the criminals as the victims, which is warped and twisted, but that's how they view things. So what have you noticed in your career?
Well, definitely criminals are not victims at all. They're there by their own choice, because people that grew up in even the same homes, same neighborhoods, same communities, they come out ahead. They go to school, they put their nose to the grind, and they get the job done. They stay on the straight and narrow path and make a career out of themselves, raise a family, and they succeed against all odds. So people say, well, I did this because society forced me, or systemic racism. Absolute nonsense. I'm just not buying that at all. The progressive movement, the woke crowd in particular, they view criminal offenders as actually victims. They're victims of society. So when they talk about harm reduction, they don't give two rat's ass about the harm that's caused to victims. No, it's about the harm of incarceration to offenders. So the LA County has a care first, jail last mantra, which means let's get rid of all the jails. Let's provide them with all the social services in the world. They're going to magically sing Kumbaya and become better human beings, which is utter fantasy.
It's unbelievable to see the fruit of this, right? And they still don't get it. I mean, we have people who've been out of jail 100 times. They've been arrested literally, I'm not saying 100 times, and they're still and they don't get it. And so why don't they get it? What will it take for them to get it? And why don't they view the real victims as the victims, the law-abiding people as the victims?
Because the law-abiding victims are beneath their view. They're not important to them because it doesn't satisfy. They want to be the great savior to the downtrodden. So for them, they've identified the offender as the downtrodden, not the actual people that are struggling in this economy. No, they don't count. It's the criminal offender who is a downtrodden, and they must be saved. And they're going to come in, flowing in like an angel and save the day for this crowd. And you look at the budget, it's a reflection of their values. And I'm okay with having someone have that philosophy on government. In fact, we need to have someone who believes that. But the problem in county government is every single seat is occupied by someone who thinks that way. So reality never intrudes into their fantasy world.
I talk about intrusion. I thought when we've seen more of a rise of the follow home robberies of wealthier people, I thought that would be different. That a lot of these wealthier, enclosed people who are usually immune to the consequences. I thought they'd be speaking out more. Have you seen that, or are they still living in this progressive fantasy land?
Actually, no. I've seen a lot of hope recently because now it's not so much the crime part, the homeless, the intrusion of homeless encampments and all of the wealthier enclaves around LA County now are causing people to think, wait a minute, I don't think this is appropriate to have my little children exposed to a homeless naked transient basically jerking off in front of their kids. And somehow this is okay around the MTA, the bus lines, and the rail lines. I think people are starting to be repulsed by this entire concept. And there needs to be some accountability. There needs to be some personal responsibility. And let's help those that can't help themselves by all means. But let's also focus on the big picture. How are these people helping themselves?
Well, Sheriff, let me play devil's advocate. Have you no compassion, sir? Have you no compassion for these people who are living on the streets? And don't you care about their rights to this is the ACLU's argument. They have a right to be wherever they want to be as well. Why are you infringing on their rights? Have you no compassion?
Absolutely not. That whole false canard about compassion. They're so compassionate, the woke crowd, that they see 5 people a day die in the gutters in LA. 5 a day, 1,600 last year alone, with their compassion. No. People, that whole self-determination thing, I'm sorry, it ends when it harms other people. When they're taking over public space, they're shutting down businesses, they're causing parents to flee with their children, to spare the children from the sight that they're being exposed to. It ends, that compassion has to end there because they're harming themselves as they die, and they're harming the community. So we need to get them into shelter, get them into the care they need, and we need to free up that public space.
Hey, Slater Crusaders, thanks for watching that full clip right there. If you want to watch the full special, you can download the First TV app, where we truly, deeply understand what is behind this idea, this progressive idea of crime, and why progressives are soft on crime. Please download the First app. You can watch the whole thing for free.